up, guys? It's Tyler from The Line Change coming to you with another video. Wait a minute. 2 videos in one day? My gosh. That is... What? Goes to show you that I'm starting to get the hang of this YouTube and slash podcast type of thing. I'm starting to get the hang of it. In today's video, we're going to be going over, or rather, I'm going to be asking you guys the question: should we re-sign Brock Boeser, or do we trade him at the deadline? So yeah, that is today's topic. Re-sign the Brock star, Mr. Brocktober, the best. And we're going to go over a couple key points here in regards to this topic. Let's just dive right into it. For starters, obviously the question is... Sorry, let me just adjust myself a little bit here. The question is, what can we get for him? I did put out a video a few days ago talking about Jared McCann reportedly being on the trade block. I mentioned in that video that if we decide not to re-sign Boeser and don't want him to walk for nothing, we can easily trade him at the deadline, and we could potentially use him to try and maybe get Jared McCann. That was an idea. So that's, I guess, one thing we could get for him, but that poses another question, is that, would that even be good enough? Would Seattle even go for that? And then, of course, another key point in asking is, how much does he want? Now, obviously, I've heard the number, 8 million being floated around. That might be a number that he's looking at. And, hey, as I mentioned I can't remember if I mentioned it in a previous video, but actually, you know what? I have it down here. The cap is going up next season. It's going up the next few seasons to the point where it'll be over 100. So that also poses the question, does the cap going up help us re-sign Boeser? I think I made a tweet about this, basically saying, I think with the cap having been announced that it's going up, it means there shouldn't be any excuse, at least money-wise or cap-wise, not to re-sign Boeser. Yeah. So, I think the cap does help us. The cap going up does help us. But yeah, and if it's around the 8 million mark, I don't know. I can't remember what he's looking for in term. Remember if it's 5 years, 6 years, 7 years. But if it's, I would assume it would be a long-term extension. And honestly, if that is the number he's at, if I were Patrick Ovine, I'd be like, jump all over that. Resign the guy for that. You lock him down long-term. You already have PD long-term. I know in our previous video, we talked about PD and how much he's not been the same PD, at least this season, but we do have him locked up long-term. And once July 1st happens, and if we don't trade him, I think it's pretty much set in stone that we're keeping PD going forward. So if we were able to have both Boeser and PD locked up, that would potentially turn our attention to Demko, Quinn Hughes, both who are coming up to the ends of their contract soon. Another key factor in whether or not we re-sign Boeser or not, and this is just my take, is could the trade of JT Miller affect whether or not he wants to re-sign with Vancouver? Many have pointed out that, Boeser and PD are really close, and that, that is probably really true and whatnot. But as you saw from their on-ice play, Boeser and Miller had this chemistry with one another. And, some have even said that the only reason Boeser had the season that he had last season was that he had Miller on his line, and Miller basically was setting him up, and he thrived playing with JT. Obviously, this year, it was a bit of a different story. Boeser wasn't producing at the level that he was producing at last season. So that, as I mentioned, begs the question, does the fact that we traded JT affect that? We all saw his Instagram post when JT was traded on, his initial reaction to the trade. He obviously was hurt by it. I mean, I can't speak for Brock himself, but obviously, they were close, being teammates. And that brings me to the next point in regards to re-signing Boeser. That begs the question now, he's done it before. In his, I believe it was his last contract, he took a team-friendly deal to stay with Vancouver. That begs the question, would he do it again? Now, obviously, after putting up a 40-goal season, he's going to want a pay raise, and he deserves a pay raise. After scoring 40 goals last year and, having a career year, he deserves to get the bag. And so he's going to push for that. And could he, if he really, could he take a team deal? Maybe. I mean, if I was Brock, I probably wouldn't be all too interested in a team deal. But at the same time, if I really wanted to be a part of this team and the team was outright not willing to pay me, a long term, a lot of money, but I still, didn't want to go anywhere else. I, had no interest in playing for another team. And this is just me, I would probably take the team friendly deal, and then maybe try again once that contract, I would probably make sure I would sign a short-term deal if I were to do that. And then once that short-term deal was over and I, put up another 40-goal season, or, did he, eclipse that, then I would be like, okay, now pay me, what I'm worth, and, this is what I want. And who knows, maybe they would, but that's, a little bit of fantasy there, fantasy GMing, whatnot. So I'm going to pose the question to you guys now. Should we re-sign Brock Boeser? Or if we can't, and if, the two sides can't come to an agreement, do we trade him at the deadline, which is March 7th? So it's only, trade deadline's only a few weeks away. So the Canucks have a few weeks to either re-sign Boeser or trade him. When it comes to other, what we can, that first point about what can we get for him. I mentioned McCann. I haven't really looked at the winger market, at least, those that are on UFAs. I think I mentioned this in the McCann video that, if we don't try and use him to try and get McCann, could we maybe get Norris? I know I did a comparison between McCann and Norris and how McCann's a cheaper option. But hey, if we dangle Brock Boeser in front of the Ottawa Senators, remember how I mentioned the Senators probably would not do that trade unless we gave them something, big? Boeser could be that piece, and then maybe a prospect or a draft pick, packaged with Boeser could get us Josh Norris. But at the same time, he's a center. Boeser's a winger. Then again, also, we got Lekaramäki coming up, and I do have a future video planned where we dive right into basically talking about Lekaramäki and whether or not he could make the team next season, like out of training camp. Personally, I think he will, but I'm not going to go too far into that, as I'm going to save it for that specific video. And yeah, that's basically, should we, should we re-sign Boeser, or should we trade him at the deadline if we can't get a deal done? Thanks again for watching. Be sure again to like, share, and subscribe this video, and keep tuning in for more content. As I mentioned in my previous video, I got a few videos lined up. I'm probably going to do 2 more tomorrow and then have them come out maybe Thursday, and then do the same thing Thursday for Friday. And then Saturday, as I mentioned in the last video, I'm going to do a recap from the Canucks Vegas game. Then also Saturday, I'll be attending Fan Expo. So luckily that game against Vegas is at 7. So I'll be having probably just come back from Fan Expo when that game starts. So be ready for that. And I'll see you guys in the next video.
And Joanna around the back of my hotel. Oh yeah. So I said you was asking after me, but I know you're best as a flagger. I said, tell me your name, is it sweet? She said, my boy, it's Dagger. Oh yeah. I was good, she was hot.